Hello friends, welcome back to Aunt Debbie's Boutique. We're on the final stretch of finishing up our village quilt, which is the pattern Tiny Town quilt by Pen Paper Patterns. And we have made most of the blocks. Today we're going to make the pine tree. Last week we made the oak tree. Make sure you can see the pine trees here. And today we're going to make the pine tree. Last week we made the oak trees. This week we're going to make the pine trees. We've also made the cottage and the bungalow, I believe is what these two are, and the flowers. The only thing I'm not going to demonstrate on a video is this duplex. I believe that's what they called it. Let me make sure. No. Yeah, it's the duplex, that's right. And the reason for that is it's basically just this one and this one together, just some of the pieces are a little different sized. So to make that, all you have to do is go back and watch the videos for these two and just use the pieces for the bungalow. I think it'd be redundant to do a third one on that. So this will be our last block and then we will put it together. Now I have a question for y'all I want you to vote on. This has sashing, the background sashing between every block and this way, which I'm going to do. I mean, I like it that way. The only thing is that looks like an awful lot of white to me. So I was thinking about maybe just having the white on the vertical sashing and maybe doing a coordinating print between each row. I was afraid if I did a coordinating print on all, it'd look like I just framed all the little houses and stuff, and I want it to look more like a village. But that might not look as good either. So vote whether it should be all white, which my background fabric is a white on white. It'd be all background fabric, or if I should put a print on the horizontal lines. I have not cut that out yet, so I still have time to change it. Okay, these are the blocks that we've made: our oak tree, our cottage, our flower, our bungalow. So I'm gonna put these all aside. And today's block is going to use all different greens. Now I did recut a few of these because I ended up with a brown in these, and I thought it might look like the tree was partially dying or something. I just didn't think that looked good. And I had a green for this, which is the stem. So I just switched them and recut the pieces. We're going to need today also some sort of quilting ruler that has a 45-degree mark on it. And almost all, well, everyone I've ever seen, every quilting ruler I've ever seen has one. So you'll need one of those, and it will be handy to have something to cut our strings because we're going to chain these blocks or these pieces. Okay, I'm going to lay this aside for later and this aside, and we're going to start on these pieces. Now let me refer to the pattern to show you here. The top piece is different than these three. It comes to a point. These are a chopped off point on all of them. I hope that you can see from there. And so they're going to be constructed differently. So we're going to take all of these blocks. They're D's, L's, tees. I guess that's all of them. We're making a total of 9 blocks, but I've already constructed one, so we'll be making 8 today. And yeah, that's 8 different ones. And then we're taking our EE rectangles that have been cut out, and we have to draw lines on these because we're essentially doing flying geese. That's what this block right here is called, flying geese. And but it's consistent of 2 half square triangles. But let me flip these and make sure I've got them all in the right pile. Yes. Take off my lettering. Half of our blocks are drawn this way, half of them this way, and you'll notice it doesn't come all the way to the end. Usually when we're doing blocks, just take one of these, it's corner to corner, and those are real easy to draw. But this is where our ruler comes into play. So let me lay out one of each of these, and I will show you how I drew these on here. We find our 45-degree angle, and we lay it on, for this way, we lay it on this side of our block, and we move it down until our corner is right there. And you make sure that this line is lined up with the edge of your piece, and then just draw your line. And that's a 45-degree line. Now on this side, we're going to line it up over here. And when you line it up, you have to make sure that you get this edge in the corner. So you've got 2 things you're trying to line up. This edge right there, and then this side. And then you'll draw your line out. And it's important that you get that accurate, because you want these 2 to come out at the same spot. And that almost looks like it didn't, doesn't it? I should have picked a better example. There we go. But these need to come out pretty much at the same exact spot. Even though they're going to be on opposite sides, we do want our flying geese to be balanced. Okay, so to start with, we're going to take all of these to the sewing machine, and we're just going to do one side, and I'll show you why we're just going to do one side. But we will lay this right here in the corner with right sides together. Need 1. Last week I got 2 caught together. And we square that up, and we sew on that line, or I prefer to sew just a hair inside of the line, which will compensate for our fold when we open this up. Make sure this, also this end of our triangle should line up with the end of our fabric piece there that we're sewing to. And always remember, you're going from a corner to an edge. You never want to put it on so that you end up in the middle, and I guess this one wouldn't work that way, but I've tried getting them turned to where it stops right out in the middle. Now, just the nature of this block, it wouldn't do that. So anyway, we do want to go from edge to edge. So we're going to sew all of this side, and it really doesn't matter which side you start with, but we're going to start with this side. And then we'll come back over here, trim them and iron them before we do the next side, and I'll show you why. Okay, I'm going to try to be a better example and start with a leader and end with an ender, because that really is better, and it gives you a running start so you don't have to back stitch at the beginning. And I get lazy and don't, I just get forgetful or in a hurry or something, but I'm going to try to do better. And I'm using my regular presser foot because my 1/4 inch would drag down the fabric here. We only can use it on edges. I may have dropped a little footage there, I'm not sure at the end, but you figured out what I was doing. Okay, let's iron these now. Press my seam and then iron it open like that. My iron shut off. Let me turn it back on. It's still hot though, so. Okay, all those are ironed open. Now let's cut off the excess, about 1/4 inch. These are my scrap bin. And now we're ready to sew on the other side, and I'll show you why we had to stop and iron this first. And it's because when we sew this side on, it is going to overlap 1/4 inch in. Had we not ironed it open first, had we sewed it like this, you would end up with a mess on your hand because this wouldn't open up right. So that's why you need to open that side. The first side you do, you need to completely iron it and get it ready for the next side. Okay, we're going to take these over and do the next side. I think I'm having some trouble with my camera over on my sewing machine, so I may not have gotten that recorded, but I'll show you what I stitched the other side on all 8 of these blocks. So I apologize if you didn't get to see that. It's balking about some stuff, and I think it's shutting itself off. For some reason it doesn't like my SD card, even though it's fairly new one. So I'll see when I get ready to edit this. Okay, now we're gonna iron this side. And as you will see, there's your overlap. That should be about 1/4 inch from there on all of these. I think my cutter is getting dull and it's kind of gathering my thread up when I cut these. I may have to get a new one. or figure out how I can sharpen the blade on that one. Ignore the little guy in the back. He's wanting attention. Rudy, can you be quiet, please? Okay, here is the top of all of our trees. So I'm going to lay those aside. Now, we're going to do the next 3 limbs. Are they limbs? Next 3 sections. Okay, these are basically the same colors as we had before, except there's this green one that was brown and I changed it to green, mixed in with it. So we'll just, when we pair these up, we want to make sure we don't have a lot of duplicates, or any duplicates if we can help it, within the tree. Now, we're going to do this the exact same way we did that, except I am so impressed, let me interject this, with the people who figured out how to cut all this out, because it was the most complicated thing and they reduced it to something very simple. So there were so many pieces. And on this one, we're not going to have to sew one side, come iron it, and then sew the other. And the reason for that is, or flip these over so we have the right side up, is we're going to sew this one here and this one here, and they do not overlap because they are not going to come to a point. They are chopped off there. So I'm still going to do it all one side, then do all the other side, and then come back over here and iron them and trim them. All right, I went ahead and pressed them and trimmed them after I'd sewn them together, because you'd already seen me do that on the top block. I did confirm that it's a dull blade on this that was tugging at my fabrics, making them kind of gather up, because I cut all these with scissors and didn't have that same problem. And looks like there's a way to take this apart and put a new blade in, so I will do that later. Okay, now we want to decide on our order, or what pieces go with what block. So we've got 9. Move these down a little bit. Just try to get all of this in the camera range. No, we have 8 because I already did one. Yes. And that's the top of them. So I am going to pick whatever block that is. I'm going to pick the 3 other blocks to go with it. But since there's more than one of each block, I'm going to put them in different order. However, there may be some that end up the same just because there's only so many orders you can put them in. Okay, hopefully that's enough variety that they all look just a little bit different. Now, there's 2 different steps. We could go ahead and sew all these together, but I think I'll wait on that because I want to show you how there's one more piece that goes at the end. So I'm going to use my K2 piece and my JJ piece. And these are very long, well, pretty long strips. And what I'm going to do is sew these together like so, with the brown in the middle. And then we're going to cut them so that we have our our bottom block on here. That way we don't have to sew them all individually. So let's take this over to the sewing machine and do that. And I am going to put my 1/4 inch foot on now because all the seams we're going to be sewing from this point on are going to be edge seams. Now that we have sewn our strips together, let's iron our seams. And it doesn't really matter which way you iron these, although I think it tells you in the pattern which way to iron them, because they don't nest with any other seam. So I am just going to iron these. Now I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to iron it towards the dark so it doesn't show through. Okay, now it's time to cut our strips. Let me see, I forgot to look up how wide to do that. 1.5 inches. Okay. I'm going to cut the first one about 2 inches so I can trim it. And you want to line up these lines with a seam so you know that you are cutting perpendicular to those seams, and everything will be straight. And then 1.5 would be here. Okay, we need 9 of these. Okay, our trees are ready to be put together. And this will be the bottom block on each one of them. Wasn't that a whole lot easier than sewing all these individually? Okay, I'm going to take these over to the machine, and I think I will chain them. No, maybe I won't, because I'm afraid I'm going to get them mixed up. So I'll probably just do one at a time. All right, our pine trees are all sewn together. Let's iron them real quickly and then admire our work. Mine look like they're gathering up just a little bit. I may have to adjust the tension on my sewing machine. All right, let's lay this out with some of our other blocks and see what our village is going to start looking like. We need a flower in here somewhere. There we go. It's coming together. All right, this is the last block I'm going to demonstrate, but I still need to make the duplex blocks myself, which will basically look about like this, only they'll be shifted more like this. And so I need to make those. I need to cut my sashing, and I'm waiting for your votes to decide what color of sashing, how I want to do that. All these blocks will get trimmed up so that they're nice and rectangular, and they'll all be starched and ironed, because I can't remember if I starched this fabric before. I think I did, but it won't hurt to starch them again. And then I'll put it all up on a design wall, and we will put the quilt together. Now that's probably not going to happen for a week or two. I have some other things I'm working on, and like I said, I still have some blocks I need to put together. So, but we will get this finished up real soon. I hope you will continue to join me for these tutorials. I have a real fun one I'm working on now that is our 4th Jelly Roll quilt, and it's going to be a quilt as you go one, and I think you will enjoy it. It's a real interesting looking quilt. So I've got that going on and a couple of other things. So please tune in. I know I'm kind of erratic how I post videos, but that's just because of life. But I'm trying to be a little more regular and get out at least one a week, but that probably won't always happen. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment, or share. Anything you can do helps my channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, whatever you do, do it to the glory of the Lord. I'll see you next time.